Ji-woo is an ugly, repulsive loser who has nothing to show for his life. His mother is unconscious and his father vanished, leaving him penniless and reliant on his E-rank hunter skills to provide for his younger sister. 10 years ago, enormous gates opened up all across the world, unleashing a plethora of monsters that were out to wipe out humanity. Because weapons could not harm them, humans had no chance of stopping them. But all of a sudden, some people develop extraordinary abilities. These people are called hunters and their magical power is ranked from E to S. With these new abilities, humanity was able to survive for a few years, but they still needed to clear the dungeons that appeared, otherwise, the dungeon would build up magic and open, letting monsters return to the world. 3 years prior, something similar occurred on a nearby island. Monsters filled a dungeon that had not been cleared and hunters attempted to clear it, but in the end, the ant monsters proved to be more formidable. We observe a number of men near a construction site. One of them, Kim, is ordering coffee while the waiter wishes him luck on the raid today. When Kim calls him out and asks what he's doing here since he stopped hunting, another guy named Park responds that his wife is expecting, so he needs to earn some money. Tim says there's nothing better than a successful raid to earn some cash, but Park is concerned because he feels like his skills will deteriorate further because he hasn't raided in a long time. All eyes turn to Ji-woo, who has just entered the scene. He maintains his modesty, saying he is excited to work with everyone today. Kim even greets Ji-woo and inquires as to whether he has eaten yet. After confirming, Ji-woo walks on. Park becomes interested and inquires as to whether Ji-woo is a skilled hunter because everyone appears to be pleased to see him. Kim reveals that Ji-woo goes by the unique moniker, the weakest hunter of all mankids, and he giggles as he realizes that Park retired before Ji-woo began to raid. Kim clarified that Ji-woo is an E-rank hunter who consistently sustains injuries even in E-rank gates, which is why people refer to him as the weakest hunter, leaving Park perplexed since he was expecting something akin to the strongest. But Kim believes that with Ji-woo here, this dungeon will be simple to finish. But Park is told to stop talking about it by Kim because Ji-woo might hear them. Ji-woo sighs as he continues to walk and hears everything. A recognizable voice informs Ji-woo that he has been injured once more. "It's nice to see Juhee again," he says as he acknowledges her. When she inquires about what happened to his face, he says that a few things happened. He chooses to share the story when she asks what happened to him. When she learns that he ended up in the hospital, he tells her that he was the only one injured during the raid on an E-rank dungeon. He clarifies that they didn't bring in a healer because everyone else was highly ranked, which leaves her perplexed. They consider everyone to be overconfident, which is why she laments about it. They would not yet suffer harm. Although Ji-woo acknowledges that his weakness is to blame, he is already accustomed to suffering harm. Then, Ji-woo tells her to start raiding because he thinks the time is almost right. They meet Sung, an experienced hunter, who asks if it's okay if he becomes the party leader and assumes leadership since he has the highest rank. When everyone is in agreement, the gate is opened and the dungeon is entered. Kim advises Ji-woo to stay close to her so she won't get hurt as soon as they enter. After revealing that his knife is the only piece of gear he can afford, Ji-woo declares that he will give it his all today and goes into the dungeon. Go, the president of the Hunter Association, informs his right hand that he spoke with the government and that they should refrain from going on dungeon raids. They did, however, also require them to provide goods that they had found inside of dungeons. Since they are able to make money by reselling items they have taken from the dungeons, he does not think that these demands are intolerable. These products are crystals that humans can acquire by eliminating monsters. Ji-woo is seen with a crystal in his hand and covered in blood inside the dungeon. He's pleased with himself for taking down a helpless goblin, but Juhee cautions him. He is attacked by another goblin, but he parries it. The goblin keeps attacking, but he manages to dodge every blow. When he has the opportunity to strike, he attempts to piece the goblin. But when he makes contact, his blade breaks. The goblin stabs him without any delay. While Juhee worries about him, Park steps up and vanquishes the goblin. As he lies on the ground bleeding, Ji-woo takes the blade out of his stomach. Park orders Juhee to tend to Jinwoo's wounds while he takes out the surrounding monsters. While Ji-woo is being healed, Juhee rushes to her aid and begins to use her healing abilities. Ji-woo is jealous as she watches everyone defeat the monsters with ease. President Go goes on to say that hunters can defeat stronger monsters by using the essence stones they obtain from high-rank monsters to create stronger weapons. He also says they can craft weapons out of the monocrystals mined that they can find in dungeons. But its quality isn't all that potent. The reason the government wants them is beyond his right hand's comprehension. President Go provides an explanation. They hope to use them to produce a new kind of energy that is more effective and safer than nuclear power. As a result, there will be less pollution, producing real green energy. But only if the hunters succeed in escaping the dungeons can they make it. After Ji-woo recovered, the group defeated the boss back in the dungeon. While mending him once more, Joo-hee queries why he has such a strong desire to become a hunter. She warns him that he will get into serious trouble if he continues to do the same thing. Joo-hee gripes that she doesn't want an apology despite Jin-woo's apology. All she's concerned about is him. The Sung introduces herself and tells everyone that the raid is almost over and that everyone is now discussing their drops. Ji-woo then feels sorry for himself as he gazes at his essence stone. He put his life in danger. Merely a meager reward. Unexpectedly, a different guy yells and points out that there is another entrance close by. Everyone is perplexed until Sung explains that there are occasionally 2 dungeons. While some find this odd, the majority believe it will translate into greater rewards. Speaking to the group, Sung explains that they must also defeat the boss of the second dungeon in order for the dungeon gate to close. Usually, they should notify the Hunter Association of the circumstance and watch for a response. However, it also implies that this boss could be taken by other hunters. He makes the decision to let everyone vote on whether or not to support it. There are a total of 13 members. Of them, half vote in favor and the other half against. Ji-woo is the one whose vote will determine the party's destiny. This dungeon is too dangerous for me, Ji-woo thinks to himself. But he needs to find a way to pay for his sister's college education because he is broke. He is also responsible for covering his mother's medical expenses. So he chooses to say yes in order to keep his family safe. We watch as a few people go through their Hunter Awakening examination in the interim. The Hunter Association measures a man's power by having him place his hand on a black crystal. We learn that there are a number of organizations known as guilds. To finish dungeon raids, they select and train hunters who show promise. But Heen, a vice leader of a guild, is the best hunter in the nation. She's a S-rank blondie and a real cutie. Some members believe they are going too far when they return to the dungeon. It's been 40 minutes since they started walking. They have 1 hour to escape the dungeon following the boss's defeat, so they have roughly 20 minutes to spare. Ji-woo takes advantage of the opportunity to apologize to Joo-hee. When she asks why, he tells her that it was because of him that she had to stay and beat the second boss. He persists, asking if she's sure, but Joo-hee reveals that she's angry, yelling at him and asking if he's crazy. She explains that if the knife had been a little higher, he would have a hole in his chest and that his arms and legs would have been almost completely removed. She also admits that her B-rank healing was barely able to heal him. Calling him reckless, she questions why he agreed to come if he is that stupid, and she demands an explanation. Ji-woo apologizes and muses to himself that Joo-hee is the only reason he is still alive. If it weren't for her, he would be dead. She asks if he's truly sorry and he responds in the affirmative. Then she starts to flirt with him, suggesting that they go out to dinner as payback. Though confused, she becomes enraged and asks if he doesn't want to spend time with her. Ji-woo blushes and says he would love to spend time with her despite the fact that she is out of his league. Before they realize this is strange, someone mentions they have arrived at the boss room. Some members are confused because they have never found a boss room with a door. Kim asks if they plan to return empty-handed after coming this way, claiming they might be the first to discover the new dungeon. Thus, they are free to go back if they so choose, but he will enter even if he is by himself. In the meantime, the man who conducted the Hunter examination is watching the president go through a brief video in which he emphasizes the need for them to always exercise caution and persevere despite their position. The group opens the doors and enters. As they do, the room begins to light up with torches. Some of them are impressed because they have never seen a room like this, but they should move quickly to take in the surroundings. The group notices several statues around the room, and Ji-woo spots another one sitting on what appears to be a throne. Ji-woo believes this one is larger, but the others begin to talk about how they feel like they're being watched. Sung then notices that the room is strange and that there are no monsters. Sung then looks at the floor and notices what appears to be a magic circle. Kim calls Sung out and mentions that there is an angel statue with an inscription on it. Everyone approaches the statue and reads the inscription aloud, stating that those are the commandments of the Kartanan Temple. They have to worship God first, then give thanks to Him. Third, have faith in God. Those who disobey Him deserve to perish. Joo-hee becomes frightened and calls Ji-woo, stating that the enormous statue's eyes moved and met their gaze. When the door abruptly closes, everyone freaks out, wondering if they're trapped. Some members start to walk towards the door, complaining that they didn't want to come here in the first place. Ji-woo, perplexed, says she must be imagining. As soon as he touches the door, a statue appears out of nowhere and chops off his head. Everyone lets out a scream of shock. Ji-woo loses hope when he considers the rank of the recently deceased man. He is aware that the man was far stronger than he was. The statue goes back to its starting place, but Ji-woo is still immobile because the man was slain in an instant and he has no idea who the monster in AD rank dungeon could be. Ji-woo then fixes his attention on the larger statue, studying every inch of it until he notices that its eyes are shifting to meet his. Ji-woo begins to experience flashbacks of his encounters with dire circumstances. During his first raid, he got separated from his group and was hurt by E-rank monsters, which required him to stay in the hospital for several weeks. Later, stranded in a maze, he nearly perished from starvation. He clarifies that hunters purchase additional weapons with the money they earn from essence stones in order to take down more powerful monsters. But all he ever had money for was cheap butter knives. He would have to use his fists to battle the monsters if the knives broke. Even though he was without money for clothing, he persisted. He was constantly made fun of by other hunters and never made a lot of money. He thus constantly searched for ways to get by. He had to watch everything closely in order to seize the opportunity. When they finally return to reality, Ji-woo yells for them to get down. A laser beam fired by the statue's eyes kills multiple hunters. The survivors are horrified by this sight and begin to lose their minds. Fortunately, Ji-woo was able to save Juhee, but she is terrified and in a panic. He looks around, perplexed as to how they came to be in this situation and what transpired. He is aware that they are stuck and cannot get out. He finally loses it because he knows they're all going to die. See you in the next video, which you should all watch.